I don't know where they're going to go, Mike. It's almost like we've been trying to figure out this slot situation since we lost Mike Hilton.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and then Cam Sutton came into the fold. You know what I mean? Eventually he serves to be a reliable guy, but then we lost him. Yeah. And then you look at last year, we had quite a few.
Maybe even bringing him back because of the kind of drama that he's in.
Yeah, you got to let that play out off the field first and foremost. Right. And last year there were quite a few guys that were playing the slot. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, I don't know. And another thing that I don't know, I'm concerned with is the lack of depth at cornerback.
Yeah.
Because, we got Jackson from Carolina. Of course, we got JP Jr. and, Kobe Trice. Hopefully he can stay healthy. But he hasn't been healthy in quite some time, going back to his college days as well. So what happens if we, sustain some injuries at the cornerback spot? So that's an area of concern. The slot, definitely, because we have our two guys penciled. Maybe they feel like Deontay could be a guy you can move into the slot. That might be a more reliable option than keeping him out wide and bringing in someone to play the slot. Maybe. You know what I mean?
Is that easier said than done?
For some players, yes, because it's unfamiliar territory. Right. When you play the slot, you cover more ground because you have more field on either side of you. You're inside the field, basically. If you're playing the right corner, you have the sideline at your disposal. You're basically covering half of the field. When you play slot, you have more ground to cover, not to mention option routes that might come your way from wide receivers. And you got to be a reliable tackler in run support as well. So some players can do it, some players can't. That's why you don't see a lot of Trent McDuffie type players that can play real good football outside in the edges at the perimeter and then move in and still be a beast inside as well. That's why when you get a guy like that, like Marlon Humphrey from Baltimore, those guys are special because you don't see it happen a lot. So we have to see, but maybe Dante Jackson could be the guy they're thinking about moving inside to the slot as we see it now. Because when you look at the options, we're very, very limited when it comes to that.
Yeah, and the options, and some are bringing him up, and I earlier did, and again, it's a player I covered directly in Beanie Bishop. Yeah. I don't know how much you know about Beanie because he's obviously going to be a rookie in the NFL, but what would it take for Mike Tomlin, as you know him, or even for a player coming right out of college, an undrafted guy, to be that guy for Tomlin on a team that believes they can win? Is that something that you could see happen that obviously would then really hurt? The depth is going to be a problem regardless. What would a player like Beanie have to do to maybe win that job when he's not even who was a drafted player? He was a ball hawk in college, I'll tell you. I don't know if he can be a dominant tackler and have that be his main thing. As much as he had 4 picks, Neil Brown told us he should have had 9 or 10. Mm-hmm. He was great, but he also was great 1 year of college. Prior to that at Minnesota, not so great in the Big Ten. And then before that was a Group of 5 player. That would be a lot to throw on a rookie who wasn't drafted with that resume out of college and say, you're the guy. It's 1 season of an All-American, not as much prior in terms of competition level.
Yeah. One thing I like about Beanie is that he improved. You talked about the multiple stops.
Yeah.
He improved, he developed. And because of that, he has an opportunity with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, to answer your question, what could he do? You have to provide an element of trust for the staff as a young guy. Because if they don't trust that you know what you're supposed to do, you're not going to be out there to try to do it.
Sure.
So with that being said, he has to learn the playbook. Because when you get out there as a rookie, I remember my first rookie camps, OTAs, they wanted to know if I knew what to do. Because you can be super gifted athletically, but Mike, if you don't know what to do, they're not going to trust putting you out there. So they want to know how much do you know? How fast can you learn? Because also, too, one thing helps the other. If you know what to do, you feel more comfortable when you're out there because you're not second guessing yourself. You're not saying, hey, this man moving motion, do I follow him? What leverage will I use if I do follow him? Am I outside? Am I inside? Who do I talk to? Who am I replacing? Who do I got to let know I'm leaving? These are things that happen in the flow of a play, and you can't be out there second guessing yourself, because when you do, that provides a sense of hesitation, and now
And
you're a step
how much
behind.
time do you have to make that decision?
Yeah, so these are things that's what people like when you're out there and you playing nickel. There's a lot you have to understand. You're to the strong side, Mike. Okay, I'm on number 2. Okay, now even though I'm in coverage, you have to understand what you do in run support. Am I contained, or do I fit inside my C-gap player? Where am I fitting? Okay, I'm moving motion. I'm moving. Now I got to go over with him. Now it changed my entire mindset of what I have to do, because now I'm on the weak side. So to answer your question, learn the playbook, Beanie. Learn it. Learn it. Learn it. Learn it. Learn it. Learn it, man. Because when you learn it, now you're able to showcase your skill set, because now you know what to do. You know what I'm saying? You know how to handle your business. And now they're starting to see, okay, this young fella done picked up this system. And guess what they start to do then? Let's put a little more on this plate. Let's see, can he handle it? You know what I mean? So if you don't know what to do, you're not going to be out there, number one. But to get those opportunities to be on the grass, they have to trust you.
Yeah, 100%. And I also will say about Beanie, and this is something that I'm sure Mike Tomlin and the coaching staff will love, he's very, very hungry. He's very hungry, and he carries a giant chip on his shoulder that is still with him. Not being drafted, I'm sure, adds to that, but he carried that to West Virginia. He felt like he was misused in the Big Ten with Minnesota. He felt like he should have been more than a Group of 5 player before that. He always feels like he is not getting his fair shake all the time, and that's not criticism. That probably is how he eventually became an All-American. That's probably why Mike Tomlin loved him so much. But you also have to think, and this just goes off of needs, maybe, the Steelers have been saying for a while they love Beanie Bishop so much. They did not draft him, though. They ended up signing him as an undrafted free agent. So was there something that they didn't see to draft and they waited, or is that just part of the needs?
Man, it's something about Pittsburgh. They have the luck that most organizations, the player who they love always fall into the lap. Think about with Joey Porter Jr. last year. They loved him. Didn't take him in the first round. He fell in their lap in the second round.
And then Zach Frazier this year, I actually said to somebody on a show right before the draft, Frazier's stock was rising. I was saying they can't sit at 51 and get Frazier. He's going to be gone. They're going to have to get aggressive. I wrote about this on national outlets, and then I had to say, I guess I was wrong. They got lucky again.
It always, every year it happens.
It does. We keep, honestly, from now on, and I tell this to fans too, every year in the offseason, we throw a mock draft. People throw, well, they're in love with this guy, but this has to happen. All these different projections. From now on, if you want to predict what the Steelers are going to do, the very first guy that somebody says they're in love with 6 months before the draft, that's who they'll end up with. Almost guarantee it. It always happens. If somebody says someone, they end up there. And Zach Frazier feels like a bust-proof guy as well. He's perfect to either be with a vet trying to reboot things, or a rookie, or a younger quarterback, or if they would draft a rookie in the future after this current situation. Or I do think he'll eventually be that starter and be there for a while. Bryant McFadden here, joining me on Mic Drop on Believe, and available everywhere you get your podcasts here. Mike Asti. I do want to ask you a couple more things here before I let you go. Number one, you've been bringing this up. This is the conversation now. Your former teammate Ryan Clark dropped some bombs on this on a national network. The schedule. You don't know how good teams are going to be. I'm sure going into some seasons you thought this was a brutal game, and then that team ended up not being good. Or a team you thought maybe would not be great ended up being better. It happens every year in the NFL. That's why it maybe is the most popular league in the world and is so widely loved. Every fan base really can argue they have a chance before that season starts, even if some more than others. But with all of that said, you have 4 out of 5 games against divisional opponents towards the end of the year. In fact, you have those 4, and then the middle ones, the end 4 out of 6, really. You got the Eagles and Chiefs. Obviously, that's 2 tough games. You have Christmas Day now, which I don't know if the players love playing that, even though it'll be in the limelight, and Taylor Swift will probably be there. It's not an easy schedule. Many are calling it the hardest schedule in the NFL, and this is a team that was just in the playoffs, even though they did not win a playoff game. I want to ask you as a former player, number one, do you guys look at these things? Do you look at the schedule when it comes out, when we're all putting it out there as member of the media and release day? Do you sit there and say, we feel like we got screwed. We're excited about this game. We're thrilled about Christmas Day, or my family's going to be mad. I don't want to play it. How do you view the schedule this this many months before a season starts. And then how do you feel about this Steelers schedule? Did they kind of get the raw deal? Do we not know those answers yet because the season hasn't started? Or no matter what these records will be, those divisional games are always going to be tough. So at the end of the day, this is going to be hard, even if those teams disappoint or some are better than we expect.
Well, going back to my playing days, we always wanted to know when was the bye?
Okay.
Right. How many primetime games did we have? Because for us, that was a statement game. We're playing in front of the biggest stage. There's no other game on. So that's opportunity to really send a message to the entire football world. And we just love having the bright lights. That's the type of group that we had. We love the bright lights. And lastly, when do we get into the divisional games? Because, as